Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil mursaleen, Sayyidina wa Nabiyana wa Mawlana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. O you believe, when the call is proclaimed to pray on a Friday, hasten earnestly to the remembrance of Allah and leave off all other worldly affairs. That is best for you if you but knew. Now, throughout the Quran, there are various verses, typically like this, that we are told, do this, and if we only knew, it would be better for us. Do that, if we only knew, it's better for you. What does this mean, right? And I'm not going to interpret this, and I would leave that to each and every individual, right? But linking that with a particular story which I heard last week, right? It was an interview on radio, and it was about this guy. He's based in Cape Town. He's ranked as the 365th richest person in the world. He's worth about $7 billion US. And the interview was about, how did you get so rich and so forth and so on. And just a short story is this guy grew up in Uppington, and his father had a garage, which wasn't really doing that well. But across the road, he had a friend, and his father had a garage, and they were doing fairly well. And as time went on, they were friends, they went to the same school, etc., etc. And one Friday afternoon, he decided that, he's going to take a walk over to his friend's garage and find out why are they successful and why is their garage not pumping. And lo and behold, his friend explained to him and said, you know what, we have 2 stores here that sells clothes, and I think that is why we are so busy. And just with that idea, he went back, he thought about it. He told his father that, you know what, opposite us, the garage that is so busy, the reason they are so busy is that they're selling clothes as well. After a few rash decisions, they decided that they're going to close down the garage, in fact sell it, and invest all their money into opening up clothing stores, believe it or not. And now, many years later, we know Christo Visser as the person that started off Pep stores, and he's the one that is worth $7 billion US. When asked, what does he attribute his success to? And what formula can he give to any potential business person? He says that, you know what, this was actually by pure luck, as far as he's concerned. If he didn't walk over to his friend that Friday afternoon, if he didn't ask his friend about what he thinks makes their garage successful, would he be where he is? He doesn't know, but he sincerely believes that incident was the start of who he is today. Which brings me back to, if you only knew, or if we only knew, do we really know? I think the best that we can do is give our best, put in the effort, and with that clear and honest intention, and with Allah's grace and mercy, we can only hope for the best. Be that as it is, our topic today is on microfinance, and Brother Junaid will elaborate more on that. But on Awqaf side, we've embarked on 1 or 2 projects when it comes to microfinance, but it's still quite a bit of a challenge, because what is microfinance? How do you manage that? What do you do? Now, microfinance is really literally loaning out small amounts of money, be it 1,000 Rand, 5,000 Rand, maybe 10,000 Rand, to the poorest of the poor to effect change. But as was brought up in the previous session, we can give out that money, yes, but how do we charge for it? What is the return? From Awqaf side, the questions that we have is, do we give from our capital, do we give from our dividends, from our returns? And if we give from our capital, surely we want a return. If we give from our dividends, do we say that it's a Qard Hasan and maybe we get repaid, maybe not? How do we manage that? Because ultimately, if we giving out the money, if the objective of microfinance, I believe, is to provide self-sufficiency to the person receiving it. Furthermore, given the amounts of money, how do you assess the credit risk? There's very little, if any, security, so effectively the loan is unsecured. What is the criteria for giving? What cost should be charged? Because what are the returns? And dare I say, maybe the recipient receiving the money, maybe not, they are financially literate, maybe not, they are financially savvy. How do you monitor that? How do you establish that? And then again, how is it repaid? When is it repaid? Or do we just say, here's the money, pay it forward, or here's the money, pay us back when you can? And again, I hope Brother Junaid would be answering that. But lastly, from Awqaf's point of view, I think there's still quite a bit of debate and what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And one of the discussion points on the table is for Awqaf to collaborate with Sanzaf, right? Because we believe that maybe with the two organizations, Awqaf has the funds, Sanzaf has possibly the expertise to provide, some level of mentorship, some level of oversight, and in that way we can make microfinance work. And with the two organizations, with that economies of scale coming into play, maybe that can reduce costs, so the charges involved won't be that exorbitant, if any. So that's possibly a discussion point going forward. But without any further ado, I hand you over to Junaid Farid. He's the Director of Strategic Planning and International Marketing. And he will elaborate on the Akuwat interest-free microfinance model. He has huge experience in the energy sector, and so he understands costs, income, etc., etc. So I'll leave it all over to him. Bismillah, Junaid.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank Sanzaf for inviting all of us over here and giving us the opportunity to get together and discuss on the contemporary issues of Zakat, Awqaf, and Islamic microfinance. Over the course of 2 days, some excellent research papers have been read, and I'm sure that all of us have benefited immensely by the words of the research conducted by the speakers. Today, I stand in front of you to discuss and share experiences of a microfinance model. Primarily, we work in the field of microfinance, but over the years, we've been recognized as innovators in Islamic finance. We've been able as a social entrepreneurial spirit that we've been able to garner. We've been labeled as a viable model for Qarde Hasan. All these things we've been able to achieve over the past 15 years. My presentation today is divided into 2 parts. The first part will actually deal with the philosophy and the idea behind Akhuwat. And my second half would actually go into the details of our credit process and the practicalities of running a microfinance institution based on Islamic principles. I would like to start off my presentation with some sort of discussion on microfinance. Microfinance is a term which started in the late 70s by the Nobel laureate Dr. Muhammad Yunus with his Grameen Bank project. Over the years, microfinance has been established and recognized as a great tool for poverty alleviation and has done wonders in the impact and life-changing circumstances for the poor and the needy. We can classify microfinance into microcredit, micro-savings, micro-insurance, and micro-leasing. Additionally, some people also consider transfer of payments and remittances also a part of microfinance. So what was the need for microfinance? First and foremost, I would like to talk about the Millennium Development Goal as developed by the World Bank. The number one goal says there has to be a reduction in poverty and disease. And the World Bank believes that microfinance can play an enabling role for financial inclusion. Almost 2 billion people do not have access to financial services, and many believe that this is the reason for their poverty, for the lack of capital that they cannot simply access. So this tool of microfinance can help them engage into the formal banking system, the financial system, and then be able to move away from poverty. As I earlier mentioned, poverty alleviation is the main goal, is the main objective of microfinance, and that has been achieved in so many different forms and ways, in so many different regions and so many different parts of the world over the course of 4 decades. One primary goal and objective of microfinance is the empowerment of women. Loans, many microfinance, I'd say an overwhelming majority, provide loans especially to the women because they feel that in a lot of societies, women are the economically and socially marginalized segment, and therefore they are the most in need of those loans. As a result, their focus has been women to quite an extent. And obviously, what better way to alleviate the status of women other than by providing money and taking care of the financial aspect. Along these goals, social development has also been reached, capacity building has been done, training and entrepreneurial skills have been harnessed along the way as well. And I believe that the rekindling of the entrepreneurial spirit is one of the very important and very beneficial things that microfinance has been able to tap and has been able to bring about change with those specific people who had that skill within themselves but were not able to show it or were not able to use that skill because they did not have access to capital. However, all good things come with a cost. And over the years, we've seen that there have been certain critical issues associated with the field of microfinance. First of all, for a microfinance institute to be sustainable, they have to charge costs. It's not like a bank where I would go to a bank and start and ask for a loan. Over here, the bank goes to the borrower. So there are operational costs. And for that case, they need to charge interest. However, this is in contradiction to many faiths and religions, especially if you talk about the Abrahamic religions. All of them oppose charging interest. So this can be a potential problem within microfinance. Apart from that, the charges of interest rates, they're exorbitantly high. As Dr. Ubaidullah also mentioned, it can range from anything between 20 and 80%. We've seen some examples where programs have been set up for the benefit of the poor, but actually those people have been victims of microfinance loans because they've been just enthrust into this vicious cycle where they're not able to pay back and have to get some more loan in order to pay off their huge debts and interest payments. And microfinance has, because as I mentioned, this is something where you do not the poor people do not have the collateral because these loans are considered to be risky. The poor do not have collateral. That's why group-based lending is done. Group-based lending gives the element of social collateral where the group of people are able to give guarantees for each other, which inherently reduces the overall risk of a microfinance loan. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of microfinance NGOs work with a single objective for giving loans only to women. This, to some extent, goes to the point of discrimination when economically active men who would want to be part of the system and would want to start up a business ultimately are not given the loans because it's not a policy. Let me just point out a little distinction that Akhuwat has in this respect. We do not treat a loan as a loan to a woman or a loan to a man. We treat a loan as a household item. It is the household that applies for the loan. When a person comes to us, we treat it as a household because the impact is going to be on the entire house. If a man comes to us, we need a spouse to guarantee that loan so that everybody within the household has knowledge of it. That is our primary objective, and that is a little difference that I wanted to highlight in front of you. And one of the important things that Dr. Ubaidullah also mentioned is the mission drift that we've seen in microfinance. Microfinance came into being for the sole purpose of addressing the needs of the poor and needy. It was there to alleviate the poor people from abject poverty so that they may be able to earn their own livelihood and seek a better life in the future. A renowned expert on microfinance, Professor Malcolm Harper, once said that over the years, microfinance has lost its innocence. It has become yet another business. And as we all know, that one man's gain is another man's loss. So if you try to make profit, then obviously somebody has to fall a victim of some sort of loss or some sort of problem in that sense. And the problem with this concept, this is a capitalistic approach. And the problem we don't have a problem with the capitalistic society, but we have a problem when the rich are trying to make off money from the poorest of the poor people. This is something that needs to be addressed and that needs to be thought about, that there are so many other ways of making money in this world, then why go to the poorest of the poor and exploit them with exorbitantly high rates of interest that we see across the society. And Akhuwat, ladies and gentlemen, is a humble effort to address all the issues that I have mentioned in my earlier slide. We do not charge any interest. Therefore, we do not want to be in conflict with any of the faiths. We offer loans individually as well as based on groups. Because at certain times, we feel that there is a possibility of a self-exile from a group or a group exile that can exist when a person would not want to be part of a group, or a group may not want to take on a specific person. We do not want that to hinder the possibilities of that person achieving his or her prospects in the future. Therefore, we give loans at the individual as well as at the group level. And as I mentioned, the point about treating the loan as a household and not focusing on a specific gender. And because we charge no interest, we operate solely as a society-based, community-based initiative where our only objective is the provision of capital to the poor so that they may be able to get out of poverty and may be able to earn a better livelihood. Akhuwat was established in the year 2001. And I'd like to quote a specific incident that happened. Back in 2001, our founder was actually working in a conventional microfinance institution. And it is there that a widow came to him and asked for a loan. At that time, she said, "I do not want to pay any interest." That was a very startling conversation. And eventually we saw that the founder of our organization eventually got her $100 US and asked her to do whatever business she planned to carry on. And after 6 months went by, there was no sort of recollection of whether going to that widow or asking for that money. But 6 months later, that widow lady came back to the office on her own with that $100 US and told our founder that she had not only been able to put food on the table, but she had also been able to send her children to school. And this was a very, I'd say, an inspirational moment, because she said that, I do not want you to put this money back into your pocket. I would like you to give this money to somebody else, so that this amount, as it has benefited me, may be able to benefit somebody else as well. So this, ladies and gentlemen, laid the foundations for Akhuwat, laid the philosophy and the idea behind Akhuwat. And over the years, as I will discuss with you, we've achieved a lot of success by the grace of God. And as I will move on with my presentation, you'll get to know more about it. So we envision a society that is free from poverty and built on the principles and foundations of compassion, of sacrifice, of equal chances for all. That's our mission. And we hope to achieve this by providing interest-free loans to empower the people, and so that they may be able to become active economic participants of the society and eventually the country. Our inspiration dates back to the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when the Prophet, peace be upon him, along with his companions, migrated from Mecca to Medina. And this was a time where we see that the system, a new system which was never heard of before, a system of brotherhood, actually came into being when one muhajir was brought together, and the hand of one muhajir was placed with the hand of one ansar, so that these two may be able to help each other, because the muhajirin, as we all know, had left behind all their resources, all their money back in Makkah, and had nothing to start off with. And as history has shown us, that these very muhajirin who had nothing were able to rise in the highest of the order when it comes to trade and business, and were able to set themselves as economic giants to quite an extent in the economy. So we believe that a society can be divided into the haves and the have-nots. And we would like for each of the have to adopt the hand of a have-not, so that we may be able to instill this inspirational moment of brotherhood that dates back to so many years ago, 1400 years ago, and we may be able to use that in today's society, which is the reason, which is a place where we need it the most. Today is the time where this kind of brotherhood is something that we should aspire to and should gain inspiration from the Muakhate Medina incident. Our objectives is to provide interest-free microfinance, so that the poor are able to become self-reliant and are able to move out of poverty. We promote Qard-e Hasan, which is a benevolent loan, interest-free loan. No interest is charged upon it, and the original amount is returned back once the loan has been used. And along the way, we hope to provide training, skills, and other social guidance, so that these clientele that we have, these borrowers, are able to become socially aware, active citizens of tomorrow. And a very important part of Akhuwat is to institutionalize not only brotherhood, but a system, a mechanism of volunteerism within the society. And this is something that I will be talking about later in my presentation as well. One of the most, I'd say, groundbreaking features of Akhuwat has been the transformation of its borrowers into donors. This is one of the core principles of Akhuwat as well. And as I move along with my presentation, I will put some more, share some more experiences as to how we were able to go about that, and some very interesting stats which will definitely surprise you in quite an extent. And definitely, Akhuwat wants to grow. It has adopted a dual approach towards growth. It garners to grow organically within itself and through replication as well. We try to collaborate with different organizations, with different NGOs, with even the government, so that our outreach, our impact, we are able to reach the maximum amount of people. So that is also one of our objectives, and I will also share some experiences, some replication examples which have fostered this objective as well. So our core principles, there are 4 principles that are, I'd say, the underlying foundations of Akhuwat. Akhuwat is built around these 4 concepts, and each of these concepts deserve some attention and some discussion as we move along. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, we believe in the model of providing interest-free loans. So it is going to be a Qard-e Hasan loan, and we provide this kind of loan and this kind of interest service solely for the purpose of benefiting the poor. We don't have any sort of vested interest and would not like to gain anything from it. Our sole objective quantifies the kind of product that we're offering to the poor. Another very interesting concept that we've used is that we use religious places like mosques and churches for our disbursement venues. We believe that in the days of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the mosque served as a center for community participation, for policy dialogue, as a center of education and learning. And over the years, we've just distanced ourselves from the mosques and the potential benefits that we used to reap from mosque as an institution. So Akhuwat, in its core philosophy, tries to revitalize our relation, to realign our relation with the mosques, and believes that this can be a potential haven to launch developmental programs, provided that we are able to link ourselves with the mosques once more as it used to be. Ladies and gentlemen, the state alone cannot provide everything and everything. It does not have the solution for all our problems. We believe that the civil society should come hand in hand. The community should actively participate, and I think it is the mosque, we think it is the mosque where all these lines converge. It's not only the ideological concept that we focus on when we're talking about our linkage with the mosque. It's more than that. We believe that mosque is a place where we will see where everybody from all walks of life comes into the mosque for prayers. So we will see people who would be our potential donors coming into the mosque. We will see people who are in need of such loans coming into the mosque. So this will be a mutual, we would like to form and institutionalize a mutual support system based on brotherhood, and the mosque would serve the purpose over here. Apart from that, we also think that a mosque is a place where there can be high accountability. There is transparency because anyone can enter the mosque. There is no discrimination. Nobody is stopped from entering into the mosque. So there is high level of transparency. The borrowers who are coming in are more under, let's say, a spiritual code to do well, not to cheat. Our employees are under that bond, that understanding that they want to take this opportunity within the mosque as a sacred element and would not indulge in employee frauds or something like that. So that is something which we feel the mosques have also have a bigger role to play in that sense. And one of the most interesting things out of this is that we believe in providing interest-free loans, so we have to cut down our cost to the maximum. And mosques with the usage of mosque, we are able to reduce our cost exponentially. We use mosques not only as disbursement avenues, because every month we have hundreds and thousands of people, of disbursement ceremonies, of loanees coming in, and we do not need to hire or rent a huge place. We do not need something like that. Everybody comes to the mosque, and over there we have our disbursement ceremonies where I'll show you a couple of pictures in that context as well. And moving on, the third point is the institutionalization of volunteerism. We believe, as I mentioned earlier, that the state and the civil society should work hand in hand to work towards, to progress for a thriving economy and empower the socially and economically marginalized segment of the society. And for Akhuwat, particularly in our case, our volunteers come from all walks of life. So they are students, they are professionals, and even our employees who work full-time go beyond the call of duty and serve overtime without any remuneration, because they have that philosophy, that understanding, that belief that Akhuwat has been able to reach so many people and will do so in the future as well. And besides that, our our top management and our boards do not seek any sort of compensation, even though they work day and night for that. We do not believe in any sort of remuneration or something to get back from the organization itself. We believe that there is a cause, and we need to fight for that cause. And as I mentioned earlier, transformation of our borrowers into donors. A couple of years after we started working, it was around 2006 that a borrower came up to us. He was a former client, and he said that his business had actually thrived, and now he would like to contribute and become a donor himself. And that was a groundbreaking moment for us. This was not only for the people who had actually served his loan or filed out his application, but for the entire organization, because this is the kind of social guidance, the kind of capacity building that we had been trying to instill, that we had been trying to teach our borrowers over the past 5 or 6 years. But eventually it came down to this, and with this, this single borrower, he gave us money, and we started quoting his incident to others, and other people, believe it or not, were so inspired that people started giving back the money with their recovery installments as well. And they saw their businesses thriving. They thought that as somebody had helped them in their time of need, they too should return back the favor in whatever capacity they could. So it is not the amount, ladies and gentlemen, that we look for. It is actually the spirit in society that we are trying to work towards, that we are trying to instill. And this is something that we are very proud of. And in the following slides, I will be sharing with you how big of this an amount, because the first one was just a couple of cents, this donation, but you will be, I'm sure, glad to know that over the years we've been able to institutionalize this member donor program as well. We offer a range of products, starting off with the enterprise loan, where money is actually taken to start up a small business. I will show a couple of pictures of the different businesses that people can do. And we have within the range of products that we offer and our average loan size, we have about 150 different businesses that can be started with that particular amount. And one of the following slides will talk about that as well. Then we have liberation loans. This is also our main focus, I'd say. More than 95% of our loans go to the enterprise loans, but we have these other products because we would not want a borrower to come to us and try to hide the facts and ask for an enterprise loan, whereas the need would be for marriage purposes or for housing purposes. So we have these other classifications of it as well, so that we may be able to direct the money towards the right need of the borrower. A liberation loan involves, there are so many people who have been caught in this vicious cycle of interest, especially if you talk about the money lenders. Money lenders, ladies and gentlemen, charge anything between 100 to 300%. And people have been entrusted in this thing for decades. There have been examples where we've seen people who have, their capital has remained the same, but they have paid 5 times the capital amount over a period of 5 to 10 years, and nothing has been able to be, they've not been able to come out of that loan. And this is something I might be able to show you if we have time in a small video clip that I will show after my presentation as well. So we offer loans to liberate them out of that, and as and when they can, they provide us with the recoveries. Then we've also, our primary focus is the urban centers, where we, obviously the opportunities of earning a livelihood are way more, and the poverty is also widespread in those communities. However, we are now moving into the agriculture sector as well. We have adopted 20 different branches in various parts of the Punjab province, where we have been actually linked up with the livestock and agriculture department of the government. So we basically provide the loans, and the government provides training to these farmers so that they may be able to efficiently harvest the crops and adopt the modern techniques that they are not aware of in these days. And then there is the education loan to pay off fees, books, supplies, laptops. Then there is the marriage loan. Dowry is a big problem in Southeast Asia, and this is something that this product we've created for that purpose as well. An emergency loan can vary, can have something to do with health and education. Then we have the housing loan, where people need to construct a singular room or just put a rooftop above their house, construct a bathroom in that respect. And then we have, initially we were not dealing with school loans, but now there are a lot of schools, government as well as private schools in Pakistan, really working at a small scale, in which a room as big as this would have 200 to 300 students and classes ranging from grade 1 to grade 8. So there is no sort of partition in those kind of places. So we provide loans so that the schools may be able to upgrade their condition. They might have walls, but they do not have a roof. These kind of situations we're trying to tackle as well. However, I would like to stress that our primary focus is still the enterprise loan, because that is where we feel the most severe kind of poverty exists, when people do not have a job, do not have access to capital, and cannot thus are not able to earn their livelihood. Our average loan amount is $200 US. That is the average amount, and we've been able to collect a list of 150 different businesses, as I mentioned earlier, which can be conducted within that $200 US amount. Our range, as you can see, more than 60% of the range of the loans that we provide are between the sum of $100 and $200 US, because again, as I mentioned earlier, this is where the extreme poverty lies, and we have to target these kind of people. We do offer some higher amounts, and you can see some percentages, some lower percentages for that, but those are exclusively for our borrowers who want to borrow for a second time or a third time. Our first loan amount is usually $150 US. So if somebody wants to apply for a loan first time, they will get up to a maximum of $150 US. And the second loan can be $250 US, and then we move on up to $500 US. I'll be showing a couple of pictures of the different usages that you may be able to see that people may benefit over the period. You can see woodwork is a very, I'd say, a skilled task, and in certain parts of Pakistan, this is where people have that skill and have worked for others for so many years, and now with the help of some capital, they are able to start their own work as well. Similarly, cottage industry is in different forms is also quite big, and people we've had people who come to us and apply for a singular loan, and at that time they're not earning anything. And we've seen within a span of 1 year, they are then employing 3 and 4 different other people. So it's not just when I say we've touched the number of borrowers, as I will mention in the next slides, it does not mean that our outreach is limited to the number of borrowers that we've actually given loans to. It actually reaches far beyond that. And there are numerous examples which we can obviously talk about that. So you see, it's all kind of different businesses are there. Anything from manufacturing to wholesale to retail, everything that has a potential, and if that clientele has that skill in them, we would like to invest in those clients and try to help them over the period. We started off from the center of Pakistan, and now with just one branch, and over the years we've grown to a network of almost 380 branches in 250 cities of Pakistan. We've been able to reach the farthest of the areas. Our focus still is the central Punjab and the northern regions. That is because we've adopted a partnership with the government in those areas. However, we are also trying to reach via replication to the extreme poverty abject areas of Pakistan as well. As we've mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, we believe in simplicity. The reason why we are able to give loans at a 0% interest rate is because we do not believe in big offices. We do not believe in huge salaries. We do not believe in providing cars and other luxurious benefits to our employees, to our to our people who are involved within our organization, to all those people. We actually believe in providing a simple structure so that when the borrowers, as you can see in this next slide, come and visit us, they do not get intimidated by those big offices, by those people who are so distant from the borrower that they are not able to understand their problems and not able to relate to them. So as you can see, the borrowers are on the floor, our officers are on the floor, and it is there that they discuss and the potential problems, and applications are filed in this way. There is another thing in this respect that across the board, this is the kind of cost-cutting structure, as you may see, that we've employed, and everywhere we do not provide any sort of cars or something else, some other sort of vehicles. For certain loan officers, we do provide motorcycles because they have to cover a huge area. And there are 2 people, as I will also discuss, within a certain area, a team which covers an area, and they are not only responsible for dispersing the money, but also for recovery as well. This is also this is a team meeting, area office team meeting being conducted by our chief executive officer, and it follows similar patterns and similar paths as I've just mentioned. This is the picture of a disbursement ceremony in a mosque. Now you can imagine if we would have to hire a hall or a venue for these many people, then how much costs would shoot up, and how much operational costs we would have to inflict in order to arrange such a huge gathering. It can range from hundreds of people to even thousands at times when we have our mega disbursement ceremonies. We have a similar meeting in one of the southern parts of Pakistan where there is a lot of poverty, in the sense that people do not even have access to education, to hygienic sanitary systems, to health. And it is there that we feel there is a lot of poverty that needs to be addressed. And you can see all these people coming in for that. This is not a disbursement ceremony. This is an introductory session in that area. We believe when we establish a branch, when we go and start working in a new area, we build on a community awareness program. And this is where we this is one of those programs in the southern parts. As I mentioned earlier, we do not confine ourselves to mosques. This is a disbursement ceremony in a church. Although primarily the population is Muslim in Pakistan, but we have some minorities for Christians and Hindus. And because these are minorities, these people are often left behind when it comes to reaping the benefits of the economy. These people do not have the same opportunities as the others do, and because they are our fellow brethren and countrymen, these people also deserve a chance to come out of poverty and be able to sustain themselves by earning a better livelihood. And again, as I said, the numbers can increase up to thousands in our disbursement ceremonies. So coming towards the operational side, we, as I mentioned, do not ask for any sort of interest. We do not have any loan processing fee that we charge from the client. We do not have any profit henceforth. We do charge an application fee of about $2. That is because we want to distinguish between a serious borrower and a non-serious borrower. When somebody comes to us and applies for a loan, then our loan officers take out the time and the energy to go and visit. This is not like a bank where you come with documentations. All those things have to be verified by our loan officers. So they have to invest the time and energy to go out and visit these places. Therefore, we would distinguish them on the basis of being serious or not by handing in an application fee, which is almost ranges from 1% to 2% of the loan amount. Then there is insurance as well. In the case of death, this is the insurance of the loan only. So in case of death, that loan of the borrower, this loan would be waived off. But please understand that this insurance that we offer is voluntary. Nobody is coerced into getting this insurance. It's a voluntary thing, and people can get this if they want it. So Akhuwat, we started with $100, and now by the grace of God, our credit pool has reached $60 million. The credit pool is a revolving fund, and as a result of this, the money that we recover today is handed over to somebody else tomorrow. As a result, our cumulative disbursement over the 15 years has been more than $180 million. And when I say this with great pride that we've actually been able to recover this amount at a very high rate of 99.8%. We found that the poor are actually the bankable ones. When we do not give money to the poor because of certain reasons, we should look at microfinance organizations and see how they've been able to reach these high rates, and that is one of the reasons why we're able to disperse such a huge amount because of that credit pool. We've benefited almost 1 million families, and on average, there are 6 people in one household. So that means around 6 million people have benefited by these interest-free loans, and to some extent, an impact has been made on their lives. Our active loans currently are around 400,000, and as I mentioned earlier, we have a network of 380 branches, which is being run by 2,000 employees, professionally trained and well-equipped employees in the field of microfinance who are dedicated to the cause and workings. This is basically our progress overview that I would like to share with you because we might have some questions regarding sustainability. So I thought of touching these things, and which actually shows how we've grown over the past few years and had some significant growth in the 2008 2009 session. After that, you can see the first few years we were trying to build our model. We were trying to institutionalize the concepts that we believed in. We were trying to build on the philosophy. We were trying to present to the people, present to the state a model that it could work, that there is another way to address the challenges and address poverty. And all those efforts over the first 8 years paid off when we went into collaboration with the provincial governments and eventually the national government as well. And from there onwards, we've been growing exponentially with more than 50% growth rates and even ranging to 100% at times. Similarly, as our number of loans and borrowers has grown, our number of branches and the staff has also grown along the way. And you can see over the past, it's still growing at a very high rate. And as you can see from the slide that the last year we reached the 2,000 number of employees with 380 branches. This is the average cost per loan. This has varied over the years, and there are multiple factors which come into being when we take this into account. Right now, our operational costs are just under 10%, and we believe moving forward with higher economies of scale, we might be able to lower than this amount up to 7% moving forward. So there have been some variations because of collaborations with the government and all that sense, and the sheer size of Akhuwat growing, and we've experienced that. The number that we are at right now, it's as if you compare this number with a conventional microfinance, you will see that this is at a very low rate. Obviously, Dr. Ubaidullah would have some more insight into this, but I believe that we've been able to cut this number, this strategy, our strategy of employing dedicated volunteer staffs and using mosques and having simple structure to get around 10%, just under 10%. And we hope that with the current philosophy and with the current growth trends, we might be able to achieve up to 6 and 7%. Now, this is a very interesting slide in the sense that it actually, as I mentioned to you, in the last fiscal year, the member donation program, we raised $900,000 US dollars from our donors alone, who gave back based on voluntary donations to the organization. In 2012, that is the year where, so I would like to tell you that we raise funds from the civil society. That is our main source of funds. That is why we do not incur any cost on capital, and which obviously can be exorbitantly high at times. And that is why we are also able to, coupled with our efficient operational strategies, we are able to reduce our operational costs as a result. And I would like to mention that the amount that we raised from the so-called rich people and the so-called affluent, wealthy individuals from the civil society was equal to the amount raised by our donors who were once our clients. In 2012 and 2013, that was the groundbreaking year, and ever since that, the money that we raise from our donors has actually been rising and is actually a lot more than the money that we raise from the civil society. So this, I believe, is a perfect example of the vision we had 15 years earlier, which was to empower these people, which was to provide that social guidance, to instill that brotherhood, that concept of brotherhood. And these people are the ones who clearly understood and got the message. And today you can see we are seeing the return coming back in the form of the MDP that we've been able to raise. And we hope that in the continuing years, this number would largely grow to quite an extent as we reach out more borrowers. Mostly, we feel that just if you think about a normal business, a normal business just would not borrow from a bank and then just give away the money and stop. It needs money on a continuous basis. And microfinance clients are similar in nature. They need money not just once. They need money twice or thrice, so that they may be able to be economically sustainable in the future, so that they do not need anything else. They do not need anything from their relatives. They do not need anything from the state. They may be able to stand up on their own feet. So our majority of the borrowers, obviously, we give them, they come back and then we give them the loan for 2 times and 3 times. And after that, we see that after reaching the 3 times, after having taken the loan for 3 times, we feel that a lot of borrowers then become financially sustainable, and very few after that come back to us and ask for a loan. And you should note that the people who actually come back are the ones who are actually trying to grow and have an appetite to grow. And that is why you will see people having taken loans 10 times and 9 times. That is because the amount is also higher. And after that, they actually would want to grow in quite an extent way. So that is why, and they would like to not just free themselves from this bond that they have with Akhuwat. And that is why we see them coming back again for higher loans. But we feel that up to 3 and 4 times, this loan does make the people sustainable in the sense. These are a couple of replications that have taken place over the course of a few years. One important organization to mention here is the Islah Foundation, which has distributed about more than 20,000 loans to the people. And it's an organization that is running completely on its own. They came to us at the start. They learned our model. They were trained on our model. And now they are completely running their organization with their own staff, with their own board, with their own management, completely on their own. And from time to time, we do provide them with some strategic direction as and when required. There are numerous ways and strategies we adopt when some other organization or NGO would like to replicate the model of Akhuwat. Obviously, it starts with the introduction of Akhuwat and its core philosophy behind the workings and the core operations. Further material can be found on the website and the internet, including the promotional material. We also have training manuals. We have elaborated operational manuals, which are also available if need be, or if somebody needs training on that thing. And once those who are really committed and would like to be a part and contribute to the cause of poverty alleviation, then we do link up with these. We do go and visit them, or they can come and visit us for a couple of weeks, so that we are able to take them to the different borrowers, take them to the different branches, and show them what Akhuwat is all about, how the process is actually being done and conducted. And apart from that, we would and we do offer continuous technical support in the form of monitoring and evaluation from time to time once these organizations or these NGOs have started working on their own. I think I am a little bit pressed for time as well, so I'll just skim through these couple of slides that are left. But the main issue that I would suggest that comes in application is that there has to be a strong commitment from the side of the organization that wants to replicate this model. Obviously, there are some financial resources that are required, and there is a need to keep the operations at very minimal costs, and they should not be extravagant operations. And obviously, human resource, all these things do come in. But I would say that a commitment level and the wish and the empowerment to do something is something that we feel is the most important thing when it comes to replicating the organization. Apart from this, we've worked on other projects as well. We've actually established a university and a college where we believe we have to build on the same model of Qard Hasan. We say that you come and study today and you pay back the fees when you get employed tomorrow. Similarly, we run a diabetic center as well, and that is also free of charge. We've also started a cloth bank, which involves, and we've dispersed more than I think 3 million different clothes to the poor and needy all over Pakistan, and some other projects, and the details for which can be found on our website. I would like to conclude this part of my presentation by talking about the fact that we believe that poverty alleviation is the responsibility of you and I along with the state. It is not something that we can rely on the state to take care of. And in many countries and in many societies, we've seen that the state has failed to quite an extent. So this is the time. So this is where we believe and where we feel that the civil society should step in and take the necessary steps to address challenges and issues in the field of poverty. And obviously, we feel that we had a discussion about the income disparity by the facilitator at the start as well. And we feel that the wealth distribution, equal distribution, is a prerequisite, and this can only happen by the philosophy of adopting the haves and the have-nots and bonding a brotherhood within that thing. Again, charity is not the answer. That is, we do not want to make people dependent on something. We believe in Qard Hasan because we feel that Qard Hasan does not compromise on the dignity of the individual. It does not make that person dependent on a particular person. It actually reinforces the confidence that he or she too can achieve something if given the opportunity. So that is why we feel that charity alone cannot solve all this issue. And this only can be achieved by people having solidarity with the poor, by empathizing with the poor, and getting sensitized on the issues of so many problems that exist in society today. And as I mentioned earlier in my first slide, that financial inclusion, the availability of credit, is a basic right. We should not deny anybody of this right to be a part of the formal financial system in order to earn a livelihood. And we derive our inspiration from Islam, but our process, our method, our model is universal for all. Thank you.
We do have a session for Q&A, but before we commence with that, Junaid would like to play a video. I think that would also answer possibly some of our questions. So
ਤੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਵੀ ਰੋਣ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਰੋਣ ਬੜਾ ਬੁਰਾ ਹਾਲ ਸਾਡਾ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਰੋਟੀਓਂ ਤੰਗ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਬੈਠਾ ਅੱਲਾ ਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਯਾ ਅੱਲਾ ਇਸ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਮੌਤ ਦੇ ਦੇ
Poor are poor not because of their own faults. They are poor because of financial exclusion. They are poor because of our mistakes and if we want to rectify, only then we will be able to give them a lease of life. Any mishap in the life, any loss in business, any disease, any wrong regulations and laws by the state will put these people in the quagmire of poverty. How can we eliminate poverty? This is the biggest question which we are confronting.
If we look at the traditional banking system, we can easily find one thing in it. And to me, it's completely biased in favor of the large businessmen or the rich people. If I look at a bank, you can clearly see that the bank is not interested in doing business with a poor person. A poor widow or a cart holder or anything like that. Bank would be more interested in doing business with somebody who's really interested in getting huge amounts of money. Before the introduction of this microfinance system or the whole scheme of provision of these small loans for microfinance for poor people, there was absolutely no window of credit available to poor people except for the loan sharks sitting in every nook and corner of our country. And I'm sure most of us would not be in knowledge of the fact that these loan sharks are charging interest rates ranging from 100 to 200% per annum, which is extremely exorbitant, and I'm sure no business can ever return the money at the rates of 100 to 200% per annum.
मैं ज़ीरो किराए पे हूँ। मेरे मियाँ टीबी के मरीज़ थे, तो रिक्शा चलाते हैं, कभी चलाते हैं। बच्चे छोटे छोटे थे, तो काफ़ी कफ़ालत से जो था ना उनका गुजारा होता था। मज़ीद इतने हालात बढ़ गए कि मुझे कर्ज़ उठाना पड़ा। कर्ज़ उतारने के लिए भी बड़ी मुश्किलें आ रही हैं, लेकिन बहुत मुश्किल से गुज़र हो रही है। घर में फाकों वाला हिसाब है, बहुत ज़्यादा तंगी है बच्चे, बहुत ज़्यादा तंगी। जो सूद वाले लोग हैं वो मुझे बहुत परेशान कर रहे हैं। पहले तो मुझे खुद बजाता कहता था कि आप मेरे से निकाह कर लो। मैंने बड़ी लोगों से मन्नत की, बड़ों से किया, लेकिन उनकी पहुंच बहुत ज़्यादा है। वो थाने में उनका हर जगह उनका पैसा चलता है, उनकी बहुत ज़्यादा पहुंच है सर। अब वो मेरी बच्ची के मसले में जो है ना वो मुझे परेशान कर रहे हैं कि हमें रिश्ता दे दे, सारे तेरे कर्ज़े हम खुद उतरवा देंगे। सूद की किस्तें देने के लिए बेटा जी मैं बाज़ार से चीज़ें किस्तों पर उठाती थी, वो सस्ते दामों में सेल करके इन लोगों को मैं सूद देती हूँ। मैं तो सर यहाँ तक थी कि मैं अपना गुर्दा सेल तक करने गई। बहुत सर मेरे घर में फाके हैं, आपकी मेहरबानी मेरी मदद करें, इन लोगों से मेरी जान छुड़ा दें। मैं आपके आगे हाथ जोड़ती हूँ, मैं बहुत मजबूर।
To take care of the need of this poor segment of the society, a new system of microfinance, a new system of provision of loans for poor people was unfolded. System which enabled the poor people to get loans without collateral, which actually provided small credits or small loans to hundreds of thousands of borrowers, and they took those loans without any collateral, and most of the time they paid their loans back. And after some time it was found out that those small loans really added value in their lives. So the whole new system of microfinance was actually created.
Microfinance has been extremely useful strategy for poverty alleviation, but we found that it has one problem with it, and that is the high interest rate which are being charged from the poor people. What kind of a financial system we have developed? A rich person who wants to buy a Mercedes car gets that car at a rate of 12, 13 or 14%, and a poor person who has to earn his or her livelihood gets the same loan at a rate of 30 or 40%. So we decided to adopt the Qarz-e-Hasan program of Islam, and Qarz-e-Hasan means a benevolent loan, a loan which is given to the poor people without any personal motive or financial gain. We have established 4 basic principles which are extremely critical to this organization. Principle number 1 is that we don't charge any kind of interest or service charge from our poor borrowers. Principle number 2 is that we operate from religious places. We use the physical infrastructure of mosques and churches for financial and social intermediation. The third principle is that we are all volunteers. We derive strength from volunteerism, and we give this message to our poor that they will also one day become volunteers, not only for this organization, but for other organizations at large as well. Fourth principle is about sustainability. And this principle we have learned from our borrowers. When we give them loan, we also give them a message that today they are takers of loan, but tomorrow they will have to become givers. Because no society can flourish unless it believes in the spirit of giving.
جو ہم نے شروع میں پہلے 2-3 سال میں ایکسپیرینس کیا، جو ہمارے لیے بہت پلیزنٹ سرپرائزز تھے، بسائڈس کے جو ہم اخبارات اور ٹیلی ویژن پہ دیکھتے تھے کہ بائی اینڈ لارج ہمارے لوگ لون ڈیفالٹر ہیں، قرضہ لے لیتے ہیں، واپس نہیں کرتے. ہم جب سبالٹرنس، ہم جب اپنے ریئل پیپل کے پاس گئے ہیں، ہمیں معلوم پڑا ہے کہ یہ تو بہت زیادہ امانت دار لوگ ہیں، یہ بڑے خوددار لوگ ہیں، اور یہ لون بالکل ٹائم کے اوپر واپس کرتے ہیں.
ہم لوگ ایکسپورٹ کوالٹی بناتے تھے، تو رات کو ڈکیتی ہو گئی. وہ مال کیا، وہ سارے ہمارے ٹولز وغیرہ بھی لے گئے سب کچھ. جب انسان کا سب کچھ چلا جائے تو سمجھ لے اس کے کیا حالات ہو جاتے ہیں. اور بچے بھی چھوٹے چھوٹے تھے، ایک بیٹی تھی میری چھوٹی سی. تو اس کے بعد جناب یہ بشارت صاحب جو تھے، یہ بہت انہوں نے صدمہ لیا، اور کرائے کا ہمارا مکان تھا. اب ہم اتنے پریشان تھے، کچھ کہنے کی حد نہیں. تو یہ بیمار ہو گئے، اور اتنے بیمار ہوئے کہ 7 سال یہ نا بستر پر ہی رہے. اور جس کی وجہ سے میں سلائی وغیرہ مجھے آتی ہے ذرا، تو میں پہلے پروڈکشن مینیجر تھی شادی سے پہلے. ایکسپورٹ کوالٹی بناتے تھے، باہر بھیجتے تھے. تو ظاہر ہے ایک ہنر تھا ہاتھ میں نے بھی چند بچیاں بٹھا کے اور اپنا وقت پاس کیا. اور یقین کریں، آپ سوچ نہیں سکتے اس وقت جب ہم اخوت سے ملے تھے نا، تو ہمیں ساری دنیا ہی اندھیری نظر آ رہی تھی. لیکن یہ ایک ایسا چراغ جلا. پھر ہم نے ان سے لیے 25,000 لیے. 25,000 سے ہم نے پھر یہ اپنی مشینیں واپس چھوٹی موٹی لینی شروع کر دیں، سیکنڈ ہینڈ خریدیں کچھ بنا کے. پھر چلتے ہوئے ہمیں 70,000 تک ہم پہنچ گئے. 70,000 ہمیں اخوت نے دیا، جس کی وجہ سے ہم نے بقایا یہ ورمے شرمے جو آپ دیکھ رہے ہیں، یہ سارا مال لیا. اور اتنا ہے کہ اب تھوڑا سا مال لے کے نا اپنا مال بنا کر نا آگے دے دیتے ہیں. اور اس کی وجہ سے اب میں بھی محنت کرتی ہوں نیچے. اگر یہاں کام کم ہو تو سلائی کر لیتے ہیں. وہ بھی مشینیں 1-2 میں نے خریدی اوپر، نئی مشینیں. اور اگر نیچے ہوتا ہے تو نیچے ان کے ساتھ بیٹھ کے، اس کی وجہ سے 1-2 بندوں کی روزی بھی ہمارے ساتھ چلتی ہے. اور اللہ تعالیٰ نے ہمارا بہت اچھا سبب کیا ہے. بچے پڑھتے ہیں ماشاءاللہ.
اپنی زندگی کا وہ ایک واقعہ بتانا چاہتا ہوں کہ جب میں ایک کالج میں کنٹین کرتا تھا، اور میرے حال جو بڑے خوشحال تھے. اور ایسا ہوا کہ وہاں سے ایک دن ایسا ہے کہ ہمیں نکال دیا گیا، اور میرے حالات بالکل ڈاؤن ہوتے چلے گئے. جو جمع پونجی تھی وہ میں نے اسی حالت میں کھا لی، اور جو بچا تھا میں نے اس سے چھوٹی سی دکان ایک اسٹیبلش کی. اور وہ بالکل چھوٹی تھی، اس سے میرے اخراجات پورے نہیں ہوتے تھے، کیونکہ میرا بیٹا تھا، اس کے بھی کافی اخراجات تھے، میری بیوی تھی، میں تھا. لیکن چلتے چلتے ایک دوست نے مجھے بتایا کہ یار تیرے حالات اچھے ہو سکتے ہیں اگر تو اخوت سے قرضہ لے. تو میں نے کہا یہ کون سا ادارہ ہے یار، وہ سود پہ بڑے لوگ ہیں، یہ میں سود دے نہیں سکتا. یہ اس نے کہا نہیں، وہ سود سے پاک قرضہ دیتے ہیں. جب میں نے اپنا کاروبار شروع کیا، میرے پاس تقریباً 5-6 ہزار کا سامان تھا، تقریباً گولی ٹافیاں تھیں. لیکن اب آہستہ آہستہ میں بڑھتا گیا، اور اب میرے پاس دکان میں ہر وہ چیز ہے جو اپنا لوگوں کی ضرورت ہے. اور یہ خداوند کا شکر ہے کہ میں اب اس کاروبار سے اپنے بچے بھی پڑھا رہا ہوں، اور میرے اپنا بھی خرچہ نکل رہا ہے، اور دوسرے اخراجات بھی پورے ہو رہے ہیں. اور میری دعا ہے کہ اخوت دن بدن ترقی کرے. اور اس میں میں نے دیکھا ہے کہ یہ نہیں ہے کہ آپ کرسچن ہو، آپ مسلم ہو، یہ ہے وہ، اس میں کوئی تفریق نہیں ہے. کرسچن مسلم کا کچھ نہیں ہے. وہ یہ بتاتے ہیں کہ ہم سب پاکستانی ہیں، اور ہم سب بھائی بھائی ہیں، اور ہمیں سب کو مل کر چلنا، ایک دوسرے کی سپورٹ بننا، ایک دوسرے کے لیے کام کرنا ہے. تو ہمیں بڑی خوشی ہوتی ہے وہاں جا کر کہ وہاں پر یہ نہیں ہے کہ آپ کرسچن ہو، آپ مسلم ہو.
During the first year of its inception, Akhuwat gave only 70 loans, and now, Alhamdulillah, we are giving one loan every 3 minutes. At this point of time, we are working in more than 150 cities of Pakistan. We have more than 260 offices throughout Pakistan. The number of our employees exceed 1,300, and so far we have been able to disperse more than 7.5 billion rupees as interest-free loans to 450,000 families throughout the country.
तो मैं दूजे दिन अपना शनाख्ती कार्ड तो कोई जो कुछ दसिया सी वो लैके जिसले गया इन्होंने फार्म पुट किए तो मैंने कोई 15-20 दिनों बाद 10,000 मिले करके 10 महीने च ना तकरीबन मैं 20-25 हज़ार रुपया कोल जमा कर लिया तो अग्यों फिर इन्होंने मेहरबानी हुई मैंने फिर 12,000 रुपया मिल गया वो 12,000 रुपया के नाल फिर मैं कारोबार करता रहा मैं जिस दुकान के अगे बैठा है सा वो दुकान नाल दा किराएदार तंग करता सी वो कहंदा यार तू इस तरह कर तू 40,000 रुपया इकट्ठा कर तो मैं तेनों दुकान खाली करवा देना मैं उस दुकान ही परचून की दुकान पाई नाल सब्जी भी बेची है नाल परचून भी बेची है फिर माशाल्लाह मेरी दुकान की सेल है जी वो तकरीबन 15,000 14,000 रुपया रोज़ाना होनी शुरू हो गई वो मेरे एक पुत्र ने होर वो भी 8वीं चों ही मेरे 4 बच्चे ने चारे 8वीं चों नसे ऐसे नलैक सन 4 पुत्र चारे मेरे नाल काम कर रहे हैं तो 2 एक दुकान पर इस वक्त मेरिया 3 दुकाना ने गंज शक्कर करियाना जनरल स्टोर देखो ये मेरी बच्ची का 12वीं का दाखला आई है रिजल्ट 13वीं का असीं दाखला भेजिया और यकीन करो जिस दिन आया रिजल्ट कार्ड तो मैं अपनी बच्ची नूं ला के गले नाल इन्ना रोया और खुश होया खुशी के आंसू सन तो या अल्लाह एक सब्जी बेचने वाले की बच्ची भी 12वीं 13वीं च हो गई है और अगे बच्ची कहती है अबू जी मैं डॉक्टरी करनी है और उसका शौक है तो मैं डॉक्टरी इंशाअल्लाह ताला एक दिन बनांगी।
Akhuwat is a movement. Akhuwat is an attempt to bring people within the loop of financial inclusion because this is the credit which unlocks the hidden potential amongst the poor.
ये इन रिटर्न बहुत ज़्यादा वापस करते हैं लोगों को भी सिस्टम को भी और हम तो समझते हैं कि हमें ये बहुत ज़्यादा वापस
The conventional microfinance experts used to say that interest-free microfinance is impossible. It's a dream which cannot be achieved, which can never be realized. But by help of God and by help of the civil society, we have been able to make this dream a reality.
देखिए जब अखुवत ने कहा कि आप अगर डोनेशन देना चाहें तो हम उसको भी किसी तरीके से सिस्टम में ला सकते हैं तो कितने करोड़ रुपया इन बोरोवर्स ने डोनेट कर दिया।
They are trustworthy, they are credit-worthy, and they want to build their own lives. They don't believe in charity, they don't believe in doles, they believe in human dignity and self-respect. These are small loans, these are tiny businesses, but the people who utilize these loans are great.
अखुवत की कहानी आप सुन चुके, उसकी एक एक तफसील आपके सामने है। ये कहानी ये यकीन पैदा करती है कि गुर्बत का ख़ात्मा मुमकिन है। ये एक ऐसा मर्ज़ नहीं जो ला इलाज हो। आप इस कार खैर में हिस्सा ले सकते हैं। अखुवत का साथ देकर, उसके साथ कदम से कदम मिलाकर आगे बढ़िए और दिल खोल कर अतियात दीजिए। आपकी एक मामूली सी रकम एक बड़ी तब्दीली का पेशखैमा बन सकती है। गुर्बत के ख़ात्मे के इस जहाद में अखुव्वत का साथ दीजिए।
Assalamu alaikum. Okay. One of several questions put it together, okay? Is this for both Muslims and non-Muslims? And I would think that it's non-zakat funds. Is it age group restrictive? Is it for both males and females? And in South Africa, there's a culture of entitlement. You know, that if you give somebody a loan, they says, you know what, it's not a loan, like, and then they won't pay it back. They believe they have a right to it. How do you overcome that challenge?
So, the first question, yes, it's, I mean, the model that we have adopted, it's universal and it's available for everybody. And right now, our main sources of fund is philanthropy and the member donation program that we've mentioned. So right now, we are not using zakat funds, but we can obviously look into that and then have certain restrictions with the amount of money that we're actually using up for the provision of loans. Secondly, we give loans on an individual basis as well, especially if you're talking about urban centers where formation of group becomes a challenge because people do not have acquaintance with each other a lot. Bringing about one or two guarantors is the solution that we've found. And instead of a group formation, we go for an individual person who brings along another guarantor who would then be able to guarantee that loan in that respect. And this loan, as I said, can be a male, can be a female, but we as an organization would treat it as a household loan, because if I go and ask for a loan, and if I have a wife, then my wife will be my co-guarantor, and vice versa. So this is our philosophy, and this is how we actually deal with that context. And actually, just the last question that you pointed out, I was initially given 2 hours, so there was another presentation which actually dealt with the credit process and the operation side of Akhuwat. And in that, I would actually go through the details of the appraisal process that we conduct, of a branch opening perspective, where we see that there are certain prerequisites for opening up a branch in a specific area, and dealing with those people. We have specific checks and balances laid down in our operation manual, which ensures that the loan that we give out is to the rightful person, who not only has the skill needed to start that business, but also has that willingness to pay back the money. So we have a series of checks and balances which would ensure that, because we start the loan at a loan officer basis. This work is then checked at the branch level by the branch manager, which is then again checked by the area manager at the area level. So there is a series of checks and balances. There is a series of records and documentation that we actually require from the person. A person files in an application within our office, and then what we do is we conduct 2 different appraisals. We have a social appraisal by going to that home and inquiring about that person from people living in the neighborhood, and then going and asking and actually seeing that the income and the expenses laid out, do they match with the kind of living that he has or she has in that household? And secondly, we also have a business appraisal, where we go to the business and see that is there economic potential in the kind of business that he is asking for, and does he have that, or does she have that kind of skills? So these are the things that we actually take care of in that respect, and I'd be happy to chat about.
I'm good. I'm just going to postpone the Q&A for a few minutes. I'm going to do that second presentation that he's got within 15-20 minutes.
Thank you. So I'm thankful to Brother Hussain for giving me the time, because he actually asked me to focus on the practical side of Akhuwat as well. We normally do not have this kind of presentation, because we just give out the idea. But for this particular conference, I actually collected this stuff and made this presentation, because this is actually the second step of serious organizations wanting to replicate this model. We introduced this credit model by actually ask them to come to our offices and by experience rather than by literature or academic. But we've been able to get this organize this series of slides together, and we'll just move in a second. So the basic unit of Akhuwat is a branch office. The branch office is headed by a branch manager, and he has a team of 4 people, each working as a group. So 2 loan officers would be given an area within that branch network that we are operating in, and those any applications coming in from that area would be the responsibility of those 2 loan officers who would have to work in teams. We would not want one individual person to work on certain areas. It has to be a group work so that they can collaborate with each other and they can verify each other's work as well. So that in itself is ensuring checks and balances at the very initial stage. Then we have the area office. The area office is headed by the area manager, who has a support staff, an area accountant, and data entry operators who actually help that person for the disbursement of funds, which I will talk about in a moment. That area office has below 6 different branches that it takes care of, and those branch managers of those 6 branches would then report to the area manager. And it should be noted that the area manager is a person who is actually the link between our borrowers and the head office. So this is a very crucial human resource that we have to really invest in order to capitalize and in order to reap the benefits of reaching a maximum amount of people. This is usually a trained person with 5 to 6 years of experience in microfinance and with a dedication to give back to community. And then we have the regional manager and 6 areas in a similar fashion as I talked about. The branch manager come under the regional manager. The regional manager is, I'd say, a focal person who leads the organization at a strategic level. He is also the person who would come and discuss anything related with the media, build up strategies, and usually around 50 to 60,000 active loans are associated with a regional manager at any point of time. These regional managers come with vast experience in the field of microfinance and have demonstrated leadership skills to lead entire regions ranging from hundreds of kilometers and impacting the lives of thousands of people along the way. Then this is a structure that we've simplified in one slide. There is the head office, followed by the regional offices, the area offices, and then the branch offices. And this is actually the entire network of the offices that actually operates in the system of Akhuwat. Now I'd like to move on to the credit process. It starts with the branch opening. And then there's a community awareness meeting where the community is told that we have set up an interest-free Qard-e-Hasan program in your locality. So if anybody is interested, then they can come to the office and apply for a loan. And usually our offices, our branch offices are located either within a small room in the mosque or within a 1 to 1.5 kilometer of the local mosque. Then we receive the applications, and accordingly, the applications that have been vetted down, groups are formed, group meetings are conducted. The first visit, I'm going to elaborate on this as I move along, is also done along the way. This is followed by a business appraisal, as I was talking about earlier. Then we have the second meeting, which is done specifically in the religious place that I've mentioned. It has to be in a mosque or some other religious place. Then the case after this is finalized and closed. There is a loan approval committee which would then sanction off the loan at this time. Once this has been approved by the area manager, then we actually have that request sent out for the fund transfer, followed by a disbursement in the same mosque or church that we identified earlier. And then after the first month, recovery starts, and then the monitoring of the business is also done in order to ensure that the loan is being used in the right way, in the right manner. So why would we open up a branch? Well, there can be multiple reasons. There can be a donor who would want to build a branch in his or her hometown, would want to start this program in a specific place. The board of directors might feel that there is a strategic need to set up an office in one of the most, I'd say, remote areas of the region. Depending on the funds and depending on staff recommendation, we also open branches accordingly. In order to open up a branch, we need to have a feasibility report, which is prepared by the regional manager and approved by the chief credit officer. This report is actually a very important thing in the respect that we have to see what is the general trend of conducting business in that area. Are those people bankable to quite an extent? What are the dealings of these people? Are there any economic opportunities in that area? I mean, we do not want to give loans out to people who would then use for consumption purposes. So these are the things that have to be highlighted in this report and would eventually help us make the right decision, because obviously there is always going to be the scarcity of funds, and we have to choose that particular place with the most optimal amount that we can use. And then there is going to be, as I mentioned, a community awareness. Community awareness actually involves, when we set up a branch, we go to the mosque, we talk with the imam of the mosque, and we have some banners in the streets. We have some people talking about Akhuwat. Our branch managers and our team from the area nearby also come in and join us to spread this word, to let the people know that we are here to help you. Some people have in the past seen us with skepticism because they do not believe that anybody could come up with such a cause as providing interest-free loans. People ask us, why do we do this? There is so much distrust in society, but over the years, the message of Akhuwat has spread, and now this is something that we do not really have to rely on, because at times now there is a need for Akhuwat to be set up in certain places, and that is why we move to that particular place. And then once the branch has been opened, applications start coming in. Applications are filled in within the office, and when they come in to the office, the first thing they're told about is the philosophy and idea behind Akhuwat. We just do not take in applications and ask them to come back if it's approved or not. We try to tell them about the concept of Akhuwat, about why we are really here and what is our purpose. This is the first contact between Akhuwat and our potential clients. So we try to tell them as much as we can about us and our philosophy. And it is that at that time we also judge the kind of behavior that they would most likely adopt in the future as well. That is something that our officers have been trained by servicing loans for over 15 years now. We also provide guidance on the formation of groups. If certain people are not able to find individual guarantors, we try to place them with groups which are missing some people in the sense that would require one more person to start a group. Group can be formed anywhere between 3 to 6 members who would then be giving, so let's say if there's a 3-member group, then one person would be giving the guarantee of the other 2 within that group, and it works vice versa similarly with the other people within that group. It is similar to a conventional microfinance system that we see across. The group has to be like-minded people with similar objectives, living in a similar locality. So it cannot be one person from one area and another person from another area. That would just point out that this person within that area that this person lives does not have that kind of a good reputation in that area, because that person is not even able to find one guarantor or one group where that person can form a group in order to get a loan. So these are inherent checks and balances which would additionally identify the right versus the wrong borrower. And obviously, we tell them that the group is a place where you are able to help each other, where a person who has more skills is able to help the other person who needs those skills, and capacity building is done along the way. Then we encourage that there should be regular group meetings so that people who are not acquainted with each other get to know each other, because they will be forming a bond of brotherhood, and they will most likely be helping each other in times of need. We've seen examples of people in one group paying the loan of their group mates because they were in a certain kind of crisis, and because they know each other, they know that this was a genuine reason why they were in trouble, and that is why they come up willingly to give their installment for that particular month. So this is a very initial stage, and we would like the group to be as coherent as possible. Then we have our first visit, which is conducted by the loan officer. As I mentioned briefly, the loan officer goes to the house of the loanee, of the applicant, and then conducts a series of checks and balances, compares the information given. If they say they have this much amount of expenses, then the utility bills are checked alongside in order to get an idea, get a picture of what the if the applicant is actually saying the truth or is trying to hide something for that particular reason. The reputation of that person, because these people live close by, near to each other in small localities. People almost like on many cases know each other, and we go and inquire about the reputation in terms of dealing with other people. So we go to a local corner shop and ask them, because generally it happens that people living in those areas usually buy things, those small grocery items on credit, and therefore we are able to get some sort of insight as to what the reputation of that particular borrower is as well. So there is a series of checks and balances that we do at this stage, and that would be the end of our social appraisal. Then comes the business appraisal. That is when, if there's a new applicant who has never started a business, then we would obviously go back to his home and discuss the elements of starting this new business. But if already there is an existing business, we would go to the business site and see the potential, whether there is need for growth, whether this person can actually use this amount to invest more, and would there be actually demand in that sense. Our officers, loan officers, are trained to understand the dynamics of small trade and the economies that lie invested with those small trades and businesses. So we are able to understand whether this business would be able to succeed or not, and whether this person has the skill, has the intention of using it in the right place. And once the business appraisal is done, the second meeting actually is taking place in a mosque or a church, where the applicant comes with a person from the household. So a person from the house has to, or a relative has to accompany that person to ensure that the family knows about this person taking the loan. And they come in, and over there they meet with the branch manager for the very first time. The branch manager introduces the program, because it's going to be multiple applicants at that point of time, and that is where the first interaction with the branch manager takes place. And at that time, all those missing elements within the application are also filled out, and the application at this time is complete. Followed by that, the branch manager then visits the office, the business site, for the final check and balance that there needs to be conducted as well. So we would not stop at the level of the loan officers. The branch manager also has to visit. This is the last stage in that sense. Once this has been done and the branch manager is satisfied with the loan, then what happens is that a loan approval committee then convenes under the leadership and guidance of the area manager. The area manager on a weekly basis would visit these branch offices, and all those cases that have been compiled up to that date would then be discussed with the area manager by the loan officers and the branch managers. They would actually discuss each and every case, and with the vast experience that I mentioned earlier, the area manager has, any discrepancies and or any other thing with which the area manager is not satisfied, those cases are left for the area manager to visit for himself in the future. But all other cases, if it's all right, then they are approved by the area manager, and that is the end of it. Followed by that, a fund request is generated to the head office, and the funds are actually then posted into the account of the area office. And the area accountant, who was the support staff, then prepares the checks, and checks then get dispersed in our disbursement ceremony, which obviously I've elaborated a lot in my previous presentation, that it's conducted in the mosque, and everything, all those disbursement ceremonies are over there. They have to come up with their documentations, and somebody who does not come up, then those checks are subsequently cancelled. After the loan has been dispersed, we still conduct monitoring so that we are actually able to evaluate whether the money is being spent in the rightful cause, whether this person has not faked it and has faked our entire process and checks and balances that we've gone through. So this is a final check that we put in to ensure that the money is being used for a rightful cause. That was earlier mentioned in the slide, that the application form earlier. And then every month, the borrower comes to the office from the 1st till the 5th of each month to pay back the installment and the recovery, and subsequently these get transferred back to the head office. We have a series of monitoring and evaluation being conducted at the organization and at the external level as well. We have a credit department which ensures that policy and the processes are being followed, that all these things are being actually conducted at every single stage. And the chief credit officer, who is a professional chartered accountant, is responsible to ensure that all policies and procedures are being followed. Then we have an internal audit team as well, who from time to time would inspect random visits to ensure that whether or not certain branches or areas are skipping certain steps or not. So we have this as well. Then obviously we have an external audit being conducted by one of the big four. Ernst & Young have conducted for the last year. And some people appointed by the donors can also act as auditors. This usually happens when we have collaborated with the government, which then sets certain people who would then be auditors and would come from time to time and visit the processes at random checks. I think I would just stop over here. This is the banking organogram, and which requires a lot of detail, but I think for now the information that we've gone through is sufficient, and we should move on with some Q&A, I believe.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is that how do you offset the operational cost, and what is your ratio of like receiving the donation toward the operational cost? What is your ratio like per, let's say, 100 million or million? And my second question is that the modeling that you have on your Akhuwat, it's quite identical to the Grameen Bank. Did you or your superior has taken a lot of help from the Grameen Bank, and did they provide a training to you, or it was just indigenous thinking from your Akhuwat Bank founder? Jazakallah.
Thank you, brother. The first question I'll address at the very last because it requires some detailed explanation. If you're talking about the training and that respect, when we started this organization, the group of people who actually started this came from a background of microfinance. So they had an understanding of how microfinance adopts, but they were also aware of the issues in microfinance, which I identified earlier. Therefore, they came up with the Akhuwat as a way to tackle those issues. And your second question was? Operational cost, yes. So in regards to the, I think there was another one, and I was going to address the operational costs at the very last. But anyways, the operational costs, we have a cost of about, as I mentioned in one of the slides, it's about just under 10% of the loan that we disperse is going to be our operational cost that we will incur for providing that loan. Because, as I mentioned, we have to go to the borrower and the borrower does not come to us. So we will incur that cost. Now, you will obviously ask that obviously we do not have, we do not charge any interest, so there is no revenue coming in. And initially, this is something that was looked at in the sense that we were not sustainable in that sense. However, over the years, what we've done is, and what we've actually preached to the people is that a person who gives and donates today, we firmly believe in this, and our stats have actually showed this. Our credit pool has risen from $100 to $60 million, and we believe that a person who gives today would just not stop giving tomorrow. He will also give into tomorrow. And when you talk about the capital markets and talk about lending money or asking money from a bank, then the recent financial crisis has also shown us that the banks can also cannot be relied upon in that respect. So we believe in the spirit of giving and the spirit of generosity and the spirit of altruism and the civil society. So that is one of the main sources of funds. However, as we are reaching economies of scale, this number would further go down in that respect. And now, with the innovative member donation program, we are actually able to sustain. Now, this will take some further time, but a lot of our branches are now self-sustainable in the sense that the money we raise from the borrowers is more than sufficient to cover all our expenses, including our salaries, including our operational costs for that particular branch, for that particular area. So, and as we move along and move towards, let's say, greater number of borrowers, we will further reduce our costs to a much lower percentage. And at that period of time, we believe we will truly be able to reach those higher economies of scale. But right now, I would just simply say that experience and evidence has shown that we had a lot of critics who said that the capital is going to erode, because if you have 100 tomorrow, then let's take out $10 out of that, it's going to be 90 tomorrow. However, this has not happened, and we've actually shown this in our model, in our numbers. But on a more sustainable nature, it is the member donation program that we believe will be our sustainable factor in the future.
Thank you very much for that beautiful presentation. I would like to know, with all the checks and balances that you go through, what happens to the defaulters in loans? What do you do with them? Very straight answer.
No,
yes. Besides that, what you call this? I think this system is very wonderful. And it makes brilliant sense in the event of families, of a community, if you have a community. As per your presentation, it makes perfect sense. We do have a challenge in South Africa where the revert community, those that enter into the fold of Islam, they are generally cut off from their mainstream family life. And in the name of Islam, they end up being on their own. And as a result, they may not have that structure, that support structure that can see them through this particular system if we are to adopt it as the poverty alleviation strategy. But it will be very interesting to hear what is it that what do you have in place for those that default in spite of all of the checks and balances that you have in place. Thank you.
Thank you, brother, for your insightful remark. The first, the question that that has been raised, it's a very important question and has been asked again and again, and it makes perfect sense in the sense that, as you've seen, we have a very low default rate. It's almost like around 1%. But obviously, when you are talking about 1 million borrowers, then that obviously constitutes thousands of people in that sense. So in that respect, what we do is usually we expect the borrower to come back to us in that respect and pay the loan each and every month. When a borrower does not keep up with 2 particular installments and they have not reached our office, then we actually conduct our loan officers to go and inquire about the situation as to what has happened and why is that person not able to pay back. As I mentioned earlier, we have if it's going to be a group, there is going to be a social collateral. If it's an individual loan, then there is going to be a personal guarantee by somebody else. So we then by taking into consideration if there is an existent problem or not, we then go to those guarantors and ask them to obviously take charge of the situation and inquire as to what the issue is. And even then, if something does not come about, but usually what we've experienced is that borrowers might get delinquent in their repayment, but eventually they do pay back. So it might come out, this number is based on the fact that certain people who have missed out on those loans, but over a period of, usually our loan recovery time is 1 year, but then this still after 2 years or 3 years, we've had repayments coming back to us. And the final recourse that you might be thinking would be, let's say, taking legal course or action on that. We do not believe in that. And that is something that we do not follow. That is against our principles. And that rarely ever happens. And when it does happen, we just leave it as it is, hoping, and it has happened at times, that people then come back on their own and give back. Okay.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum again. Just explain to us again what your understanding of Akhuwat means, and is there some kind of example in the Seerah for this following? I'd also like to know what kind of risk mitigating initiatives you've taken given the global economy and so on, and where applications are rejected, why would they be rejected?
Okay. If you're talking about the risk mitigation things, that is, we do not, our process is actually basically the safeguard that we've taken against mitigating potential problems. Obviously, the global crisis has come up again and has affected different parts of the world, but we feel that as you can see, our growth was actually when the financial crisis actually hit. The global crisis actually came in 2008, 2009, because we feel that those small businesses, those small ventures do not get impacted to quite an extent. We have other risk profiles and risk issues that need to be addressed, which is whether the loan will be used for rightful purposes, whether the community that we're actually involved in, is that community dependable, whether the economy, or let's say whether there is a need for businesses in, let's say, rural areas would not have a lot of entrepreneurial activities going on. So we have to understand the dynamics of the place where we actually work in. So our credit process in that whole has an inherent risk mitigation structure built in to address these issues that come from time to time. And regarding the applications being rejected, it can be usually what happens is that the loan that they put in is not actually going to be used for that purpose. And it has happened many a times. I've visited those places, those borrowers, where they want to use this loan for something else, but they point out or put up something else. And by inquiring from the society, by inquiring with the group, we found out that this is not, they do not even have the skills to set up that business. Another thing can be whether their reputation is not good when it comes to financial dealings, and we've been able to cancel out many applications based on that as well. And as a result, there can be, we can also look into the details. In Pakistan, there is a very strong microfinance credit network available, and we're able to see if that person has taken loan from somebody else as well or not. So multiple factors lead to this, but the foremost and the most important reason is not rightfully using that loan and having some other reason for applying to that.
If I can just ask a question from the sideline. So this issue of the guarantor, is the guarantor a financial person, a financial guarantor, or a, if you wish, a moral or emotional guarantor? What type of guarantor?
So I'd say this is a combination of both. It's going to be a social, a moral, as well as a financial guarantor, in the sense that this person would be guaranteeing the entire the loan that we do offer, and this person would have to be really acquainted with the person, with the borrower in that sense. So it's a combination of both. But as I mentioned earlier, we do not take any legal course or legal action. So the thing about financially being liable to Akhuwat is not there and does not exist in that sense.
Q&A closed for now, please. Please, we need to move on. We say shukran to Brother Junaid. I'm sure we can maybe catch him over lunch and speak to him individually. Just want to say shukran from Awqaf and Sanzaf, and that has been truly inspiring. Shukran. Assalamu alaikum.